Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I would like all of my Meadows Elementary School students to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are a child in here, you're going to start us off. I have a quorum present. I didn't mention that. We are going to start this meeting by recognizing our staff and our community who did so much during our Hurricane Beryl. To do this, I would like council to come down and as I call your name, would you, I'm sorry, Kelly, would you guys come this way so that you can shake hands as you, shake hands before you come, or should we go the other way? Come to me first, and then we'll shake hands this direction. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. The first group that I'm calling stood up at the Emergency Operations Center. These people kept our streets clear for emergency response vehicles, drove the emergency response vehicles, coordinated our efforts, and kept us safe during Hurricane Beryl. I would like to recognize Chief Gary Stewart, Assistant Chief Jack Ashton, Alex Adamus, Matthew Bruno, Caitlin Chan, Santana Dominguez, Travis Florian, Solomon Manna, Jasmine Melanson, Lee Mayan. She's not able to be with us tonight. Joel Portillo. D'Angelo Richmond. Thank you, D'Angelo. Desi Rodriguez. And Anthony Ibarra. Anthony was also not able to make it tonight. Now, I want to recognize the staff that helped us prepare for the storm, clean up afterwards, kept our animals safe, submitted so much paperwork to keep us in compliance. Your efforts were very, very appreciated. I'm going to start with Nick Habe. Cameron Miller. Courtney Rutherford. Tiffany Polk. Rod Haney. Thank you, sir. Colleen Cabezas. Danielle Delgado. Here you go. Damian Duran. Doran Kinnig. And Michael Headley. We also want to recognize those who are unable to attend tonight, but whose efforts helped us after Beryl. Anna Maria Weston, Clayton Foster, Ann Carrizales, Kelly Sarabia, Jackie McCordick, Dan Denny, Nick Garza, Daniel Trelichek, Carolyn Whitlow, Lee Ilanen, Wade Boatwright, Tanner Cabezas, Kyle Dow, Mia Garza, Aiden Grabian, Camden Miller, Madeline Peters, Josiah Robinson, Atticus Weber, and Ethan Zwar. Thank you. I have two proclamations. Are we going back up to the dais for that?
Well, before we do, just real quick, when you work for a city, it's not often that you get to go through a hurricane with a mayor who's only been on the job for maybe 8 weeks or so. And so this staff had the opportunity to really work with and bond with our mayor through a hurricane. And it was a wonderful experience, quite frankly. Despite the disaster, despite everything that went on, we got to see the heart of our mayor. We got to see the character of our mayor and really the care that she had for this community. I'd like to present this to her as well. Let me read it real quick. It's presented to Mayor Audrey St. Germain in appreciation of your unwavering dedication and commitment to the city of Meadows Place. Your selflessness and extraordinary efforts go above and beyond your call of duty for our citizens and community. Mayor?
I have two proclamations to read this evening. I was overwhelmed with the kindness of the community in Meadows Place. I knew that Meadows Place is such a special, wonderful place to live, but it was front and center when we were dealing with a disaster. So we wrote this proclamation honoring all of our Meadows Place citizens and organizations during Hurricane Beryl. I'm going to read through this list, and afterwards, if you contributed to this at all, I would like you to stand up and we will clap for you. All right. Honoring a proclamation honoring our Meadows Place citizens and organizations during Hurricane Beryl. Whereas the citizens who cleared drains before, during, and after the storm to allow water to flow, And whereas the citizens who organized an effort to provide food to people. And whereas the citizens who cleared their elderly neighbors' yards in the aftermath of the storm. And whereas the citizens who expedited our power restoration by identifying a major problem. And whereas our friendly neighborhood lineman and his family who sacrificed time, energy, and a vacation to restore power to our city and the surrounding area. And whereas the citizens who lent their portable generators, fans, power banks, window units, and/or housed neighbors without power. Whereas the citizens who set up charging and cooling stations in their front yards. And whereas the organizations who organize efforts and volunteers to clean out refrigerators and connect with elderly residents at Senior Village. And whereas the church who opened its doors for over a week to provide cooling and charging station to all without power. And whereas the citizens who checked on neighbors, assessed their needs, and provided. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Audrey St. Germain, on behalf of City Council of Meadows Place, do hereby offer our sincerest thanks and gratitude to the citizens of Meadows Place who makes Meadows Place your place for life. So please stand up. Thank you very much for being here tonight. I have an additional proclamation before we move on to the next part of our agenda. This is the proclamation for National Night Out 2024. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch sponsors a unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program entitled National Night Out, and whereas National Night Out is a national community building campaign that is a great opportunity for law enforcement and citizens to partner up against crime, and whereas National Night Out promotes police-community partnerships, enhancing relationships between neighbors and law enforcement while bringing back a true sense of community. Whereas Meadows Place Police Department plays a vital role in assisting Fort Bend County through joint crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts in Meadows Place, and whereas it is now essential that all citizens of Meadows Place be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and the impact their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in Meadows Place. And now, therefore, I, Mayor Audrey St. Germain, do hereby invite the residents of Meadows Place to join the Meadows Place Police Department and millions of Texans in supporting the 2024 National Night Out on October 1st, 2024, and do hereby proclaim Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, as National Night Out in Meadows Place. Thank you so much to everyone who came this evening. Feel free to not stay for the rest of the meeting. You're welcome to stay. But we are going to start on reports here momentarily. Thanks for coming, everybody. All right, we're going to move on to agenda items D, and that is reports, and we're going to start with our police department. Are you ready, Chief Stewart?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Good evening, Council. Yeah, that'd be better. Stand on that hill. All right. Getting me off that incline. Thank you. As always, we start out with our number of accidents for the month as 20. I know that's a lot higher. I'm going to explain that 12 of those were in private parking lots. So 8, which would have been right in our normal average. Number of arrests was 7. Number of reports, calls for service was 2198. Reports was 43. Traffic citations for calls were 288. Traffic charges, city ordinance violations issued were 2. Traffic warnings 174 with 351 charges. City ordinance violations, there were 16 contacts for warning. Total activity count was 3,374. We did have 1 assault, 1 BMV, 0 burglary of business, 1 burglary of a residence, 18 city ordinance altogether, 0 criminal mischief, 1 fraud, 0 robberies. Total business checks, including close patrol, house watch, school, was 2,023. 6 thefts. Our UUMVs were 0, and our TLC program was 128 contacts with 32 failures and 128 passing, 32 failures with a total of 160 contacts. So you can see the breakdown of those city ordinance violations below and warnings. There were 5 for solicitor, 3 for loud noise, 2 for loose dog, and 6 for junk vehicle parking in various locations of the city. 2 citations were issued to solicitors, and there were 0 accidents in the roundabouts. Moving on through the report, the supportive details are below. One of the rest that we'll talk about later on. If we can flip to page 5. Go over our flock safety alerts. The total was 67. It's up from the previous month by 1. Stolen car alerts were 11. Our sex offender alerts were 28. 24 hits were 4 repeat vehicles. Stolen plate alerts, 7. Gang or suspected terrorists, we had 5. Missing person alerts was 3. 2 for warrant, 10 for protective order, 1 for other agency hot list. In those cases, flock was utilized. 1 did result in an arrest that we had for a theft from a Northern Tool. Moving on to the arrest, you can see on the next page that the arrests were broken down by 5 for warrant of other jurisdiction, 1 for theft, evading, and tampering with evidence, and 1 false ID to a peace officer. The supporting documentation behind that for those arrests, if we move to page 9, which is the additional notes section, go over our grant status that we're currently working on. Our dispatch console grant is in review. The $197,000 that we'd asked for, we should be expecting to hear something in September, and hopefully that goes through so we can update our system. We're seeking the $250,000 grant for our in-car and body cameras to update, as that we explained before. The company that was taking care of that for us is no longer in business. We did seek the grant, and it looks like we may get a partial funding grant to be awarded in September as well, and we're waiting on final decision for that. Our Jerry, as many of you know, he does our grants. He is working as a secondary source, and it's under current review as well. Continuing with the City of Meadows Place and Cheatham and FEMA recovery team, which consists of 2 people, is in attendance today in a kickoff call for our recovery. Our program manager has been assigned in FEMA for the FEMA recovery funds, and as you know, that's Anna Maria and Assistant Chief Ashton have been working on that and lining everything up. As everything, it takes a pretty good amount of time, as we just now got our case manager. Currently, we have 2 dispatch applications under review. One's for full-time position that's currently open, and the other one, and it's going to move to background, and the other one's for a part-time position, and that's also moved forward. I do have the names down there. Our bailiff position, we still don't currently have any applications that we're able to review at this time. National Night Out, our mayor just brought that up, so the proclamation is in effect. You know the times, it'll be 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on October 1st. I look forward to seeing you all there. Our IAP, Incident Action Plan, is it's in progress for the Fall Festival. And back to FEMA and Cheatham, training for all departments to discuss the data. We need to complete the ICS forms. It's required for Cheatham and FEMA submissions. Will be held tomorrow at 1 p.m. in our training center. And that's going to be for staff so that we can just review and make sure everybody's completing the paperwork correctly. I did want to mention I just returned from Round Rock, Texas, attending the mandatory chiefs training required by TCO. We had 115 chiefs in this class, and I'm just going to let y'all know, and the reason I bring that up mainly is that there's a lot of unfunded mandates coming in 2025. I know, see Rick over there shaking his head. It's going to be across the board with a lot of things, but law enforcement especially. Those things we didn't foresee, but TCOL, being our governing body as law enforcement, got surprised during their sunset review, and now that gets passed on to the agencies. With that, that'll conclude my report for this evening.
Did council have any questions for Chief? All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Got off
sir.
easy tonight.
Our code enforcement report is next. Angie was not able to make it with tonight, so Nick will be giving the report.
Yeah, just briefly, you can see the report in the backup. Angie did have some scheduled time off. Did want to mention, the top 3 violations this time of year, which you might typically see. Top violation is going to be your grass and weeds in excess of 9 inches. Over the last quarter, we had 96 violations go out. The other 2 would be obstructions and clearances, particularly for trees and landscaping. That can be anything from stumps in yards to limbs that need to be trimmed. And then that third one, special off-street parking regulations. What that means is there's an ordinance in there that deals with boats, trailers, RVs. Those things can be seen from the right-of-way. That's going to be the third largest violation that was witnessed during the last quarter. Like I said, when Angie gets back, we still want to have an opportunity to do a workshop with council to really kind of talk about code enforcement as a whole. Angie's doing a good job learning the job. We're sitting together. We're reading ordinances together. She's learning the code book, understanding what's in there. Quite frankly, the animal control ordinance that we have later on tonight is something that she and I have had the opportunity to talk about quite a bit. So, with that, didn't want to skip the report tonight, even though she's not here, but it is in there, and if you have any questions, we can certainly answer them when we can.
One question. When did the paint options change? I've had several people comment to me about a couple of houses that the paint is very outstanding.
Yes, the city by law. Oh, do we have an attorney here? We do have an attorney. We're not allowed to regulate paint colors.
When did that because when I did my...
The state
legislature take it away.
Oh, okay, because I had to go through, pick out chips and everything, which I didn't mind, but...
No,
Most of the architectural requirements that we used to be able to enforce were stripped by this legislature. And the only thing left is for us to create an HOA, because they didn't strip the HOAs. So that would be the option to be able to enforce shingle color, paint color, fence height, all the things that we used to have control over that we don't anymore.
That's right.
That's the option.
So there are things that private deed restrictions can enforce that cities cannot enforce, and paint color and materials are. Yeah.
I have a question. Has Angie gone around and looked at any debris that we have left? I know Rick probably knows, but in Commissioner Court, they said the last pickup would be August 31st. They're going to do one more round. Are we looking good there?
We did. We're looking very good. The last check she did when running around Sydney, she's found 12 spots left. And then after that, the truck came back through town. So we're looking very good. I don't know that there's anything. There may be. I don't want to say that. But we're looking very, very good. And the report we actually got from Texas Pride when we met with them not long ago was at Meadows Place. And this was back when we still had debris and the trucks hadn't made the last few passes, was that we were far and away better looking than a lot of the other communities in the area. So
awesome. Thank you.
About that.
If there are no further questions, we'll move on to the fire report. This month we had 63 incidents. 27 of those incidents were medical assists with an EMS crew. And that brings us to the city administrator's report.
I don't really have a report. We've been meeting a lot. We've been meeting a lot lately. Don't really have a report tonight, but I did want to mention that this morning we did have a pre-bid meeting, an optional pre-bid meeting for the Dorrance Phase 2 project. We're in the bid phase of that. We did have 4 contractors show up, so we hope for some good bids. The bid opening will be September 10th, and we'll know then what Phase 2 will cost. So that's my report tonight.
Were there any questions for Nick? Okay. That moves us on to mayor and council comments. We have one, and that is the Fort Bend Mobility Bond Project, which is also our first agenda item. But if you wanted to chat about that, Nick, Rick?
Right, nothing really new. Item F1 is authorizing a change order, which will provide the items needed to amend the agreement with Centerpoint to use that area. They will no longer do any more reviews until that is submitted. And so that's just our next step. And that's going to be, well, I'll cover that during the item.
Thank you. That brings us on to our regular agenda. Are we ready? Okay. We're going to go to agenda item number 1, discussion and consideration of resolution number 2024-34, authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment to the agreement with Transcend Engineers and Planners, LLC supplemental proposal number 3, incorporating a supplemental with Quo and Associates for surveying and CAD services to prepare Centerpoint exhibits for grant to others application, associated supplement for the Fort Bend Mobility Bond Project in the amount of $5,255.25.
Move to approve.
Is there any discussion?
This is 51% Meadows Place, 49% Stafford funding.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item number 2, discussion and consideration of resolution number 2024-35, designating Scott Williams as the building official for the city of Meadows Place. In November of 2020, we appointed Kevin Taylor from BBG as the city's building official. Kevin sold his company to Safe Built LLC and has retired. Scott Williams from Safe Built has been doing the building official duties for the city of Meadows Place, but unfortunately he wasn't able to be here with us tonight. We have Tracy Rodriguez here. Do you mind coming to the podium? Thanks, Tracy. Did council have questions for Tracy?
I'll move to approve just
Okay.
for discussion item.
Second.
Rick and Tia. Is there any discussion?
Nick doesn't want to do this?
I would make a very poor building official. I've pretended to be one in the past. Tracy, thanks for being here. I did want to give you the opportunity, guys, to visit with council a little bit about the duties of a building official and why it's important to name a building official in a city, particularly when we're on a contract basis with a company that does our plan reviews and inspections.
Correct. So Safe Built is a national company, acquired BBG a couple of years ago. The importance of having a building official is to have someone that is qualified and experienced to answer the questions related to the code and how they apply with your ordinances. Whether it's the public that has questions, developers, and to help the city with their strategic planning and their growth to ensure that it meets all the requirements outlined in codes and ordinances. Scott's got years of experience under his belt. He's been serving y'all for quite some time, and he does a fabulous job. So if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, is Scott open to conversation with residents? Would he be the one that a resident could interface with if they had questions, or does that have to go through city staff in order to be answered?
So no, if any of our building officials receive a call and they're just asked a general question, they're going to answer the question related to the code.
Okay.
If it has to do with city ordinances, most of the time we're going to gather all the question and we're going to research the ordinances and make sure before we answer that we don't fly off the cuff. But most of those questions start with the city first and get directed to us. That way the city's in the loop and is aware of the questions that are happening, so that if it's a kind of a repeat occurrence, the city knows there's an opportunity for outreach or something to do.
A lot of the questions that we get a lot of time fall within the scope of the international set of building codes that we've adopted. It's not city ordinance code related codes, it's international set of codes. And so a lot of times we'll rely on the building official to help us clarify that. Most of the questions that I've ever had in my career of a building official had to do with what does this mean in the international fire code? What does this mean in the international, IRC or whatever it might be? City ordinances, typically staff is pretty well versed in them because they're so tailored to your city and they're so personalized to us. But the international set of codes, when you're talking about square footages of buildings for sprinklering, or does a new window need a permit, those kinds of things, those are all typically covered in those international codes, and that's where a building official can come in handy. Is that a fair?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're very welcome.
Were there any more questions? Okay,
Thank
you,
you
Tracy.
very much.
Oh, sorry, we're voting. But you can go, Tracy. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Yes, that was all of the discussion. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item number 3, discussion and consideration of ordinance number 2024-37, amending City of Meadows Place Code of Ordinances, Chapter 90, Animal Control Regulations. If you remember last month, we discussed this. The 3 items that council asked staff to amend were clearly defined premises, remove at heel, and specify that dogs must be leashed even if in their own owner's front yard.
Move to approve.
Kurt moves and Kelly seconds.
And
Is there any discussion?
yeah, I'll add something real quick. I got a call today from a resident who said, I need help getting in CenterPoint needs help getting in a yard to hook up their internet. There was a dog, the owner's dog, in the front yard just walking around, and he said, the dog I think is friendly, but it keeps giving us a weird look, and is that allowed? Who do I call? And I said, well, we're actually talking about that tonight. So that situation does come up where there may be a homeowner's dog in the front yard, but still could just go running off. So I'm thankful we're kind of tightening this down a little bit and putting this in place.
The only other question I had, we now have terms defined. We have clarified some of the gray areas. We have the penalty, which would go back to the stair-step penalty. I guess my only question is this code enforcement? Where does the enforcement of this lie?
It can either be code enforcement or police department. I would say that for the residents, if this is a situation that you might feel is a dangerous situation, then don't hesitate to call the police department.
Okay.
But code enforcement certainly could take action as well.
Okay. Thank you.
And while there are going to be a lot of residents that are happy to see this and will be thankful, there are going to be a lot of residents that are not very happy with this new definition. I see a lot of people out in their front yards playing catch with their dog, and technically now they can receive a fine for that. So how are we going to push this out? I'm assuming Cameron's going to blast what he can, but not everybody's paying attention to social media. Are we issuing, I guess, warnings for a while, or how do we want staff to handle this?
I would like to see at least a transition where we are educating the public and maybe having some leniency, especially, I do know there's several residents that I can think of that are always outside with their dog in their front yard. So there's definitely some that are, like Rick said, they're not going to be very happy, and I would like to have some tolerance. I don't know exactly what that looks like. I think
30 days, 60 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that there will be some pushback on some, but I can tell you, somebody who rides the neighborhood and is chased by dogs, there's also going to be people that are pleased to have, because these are dogs that otherwise are playing in their front yard until somebody on a bike rides by, and then they're in pursuit.
Absolutely.
And fortunately for me, I'm not the slowest one riding, so.
Well, I think the biggest change here is obviously that a dog has to be on a leash even if they're in your front yard, which has changed.
Yes.
If you guys can give staff some parameters and how long you'd like us to have that conversation with people.
Well, I would think 30 days, but I'd actually like it to be in the newsletter. And I know the
Yes,
newsletter
that's what I
came
was-
out, so maybe 60 days.
I was about to say, I do want to put a blurb in the newsletter about this.
And so if you guys want to do 30, 60, we can kind of say, staff's going to give warnings. If code enforcement goes out and sees a dog out front, she's driving by, talks to the owner, can let the owner know for X number of days, hey, we have a new law in town, that kind of thing.
Well, is the October newsletter already out?
No, the September newsletter is out.
Yes,
So October newsletter goes to print. We're due on the 15th. Yes. So we've got,
Let's say 60 days from today.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a motion and do I have a motion and a second for this one? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item number 4, discussion and consideration of ordinance number 2024-38, amending the general fund budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2024, increasing line item 100060565,001, mowing and landscaping, $40,000 from general fund budget for the tree trimming in the city.
I'll make that motion.
David makes the motion.
Second.
And this, just to clarify, this was, we moved this up to the 24 budget because we had resources to cover it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And this would not have protected anybody's power during the hurricane. This is just in the streets and parks.
Yes, that's important. These are far away from lines. I have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item number 5, discussion and consideration of ordinance number 2024-39, amending the general fund budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2024, increasing line item 100060510,100, Parks and Recreation salaries $28,000 from the general fund budget, from the general fund balance due to the increase in pay for the summer staff. We have Colleen here tonight. Would you mind coming to the podium?
So this is in reference to conversations we had prior to the summer starting as we were trying to hire summer staff, and we were having issues doing that because of the market value and gaining interest. Council approved that we go ahead and increase the salaries for the seasonal staff. And we did. And then we also asked that we have throughout the summer to gather a real-time number for you guys as far as how much it was going to cost. And I'm happy to say it turned out to be less than what we anticipated. But the number that we're bringing before you tonight is $28,000, I believe is what is on there. Unfortunately, that does not also include the counselors. That was a different line item, which we will bring back next month. So that's an additional $7,000 for that part. So in all, it was $35,000. And I believe at the beginning of the summer, we were believing it was going to be more like $40,000 to $60,000. So I'm happy it was less, but we are asking for that at this time.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Did you have questions for Colleen? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Council.
Thanks, Colleen. That brings us to our last agenda item, regular agenda item. And that is discussion and consideration regarding Texas Water Code Section 11.086, overflow caused by diversion of water. And this is on the topic of stormwater runoff that's been discussed lately, specifically what to do when water flows from one property to another, potentially causing damage. There's no city code specifically related to regarding or impervious cover installations in town. Stormwater mitigation is typically handled through a building permit process where a plan set is reviewed. The city could still write citations against people diverting water off their neighbor, but it means that the Class C would typically be tied to an owner regarding property and or diverting water without first getting an approved city permit to do so. They'd have to get caught by the city. Damages and other legal remedies would still need to be handled at the civil court level. The city does have options to create a threshold for fill dirt, regrading or impervious cover, etc. That would require a city plan review and permit to ensure water is not diverted improperly. We have our city attorney here this evening to help guide us in this conversation. And I know this is directly affecting families. So I want to open the floor for conversation.
So I wanted to bring this one to council because it's affecting a friend of mine who happens to be here tonight that lives in the R2 section that has the 0 lot lines. Mm-hmm. And what happens when a neighbor puts a bunch of fill dirt in and doesn't grade it correctly, and then water can flow towards the neighbor's house and flow into the neighbor's house during heavy rainflow. So I wanted to explore to see, is there anything we can do as a city to tighten up our ordinance if possible? What can we do to help the residents that this may affect either now or in the future?
And I'll add that if you ask a dozen attorneys or a dozen engineers this question, you're going to get 50 or 100 opinions. And so there's different approaches we can take. And I don't know if we want to start discussion or if you want to hear from David first. I think some of us have seen the videos and just want to hear what's happening and what's going on first.
David, would you like to come to the podium? We'd love to hear it directly from you.
Okay, so I live in the patio home section. I guess I should introduce myself. David Lance, 11946 Meadowcrest Drive. I live in the patio home section, and so we have the zero lot line. I'm glad that you explained it, how that actually works. The wall of the house is the property line. I don't have a yard on that side of the house that I can walk around and do maintenance. Even if I want to paint, pressure wash, whatever that side of the house, I've got to coordinate that with the neighbor. And most of the folks that live in that section are cooperative with each other. And I grew up in that section 2 streets over, and so I'm used to that. Unfortunately, where I am now, I've got a rental property next to me that's got a history with the city and is just a problem. It is tenant occupied, and in late March or early April of this year, I think when I was on vacation, because I didn't see it happen, the renter raised his backyard considerably, brought in dirt and sod, and just piled it on top of what was already there. And what was already there was probably tall enough, maybe even a little too tall, and now it's really way up above grade where it's supposed to be. And some places the ground level is at the level of my weep holes on the side of my house. So you can imagine, and it slopes toward me. So you can imagine that when we get really even just a slight rain, water starts coming in. And he also built sort of a dam that prevents it from flowing toward the street and just keeps it there. So it's a pretty serious problem that over time it's going to cause foundation issues. I try to keep everything dry as fast as possible. When we have a rainstorm, I've got to be home. I can't travel, can't go out of town for long periods of time because I've got to watch the weather. Unless we're in a drought, I'm pretty well stuck here. But when it comes in, I try to use a dehumidifier and fans. So far, I've been able to keep the sheetrock from getting damaged because it's coming under it. But all the carpet had to come out of that part of the house. Furniture's damaged, all of that. And I'm not even asking anybody, the homeowner, to pay for any of that or anything like that. I just need that yard to be regraded. Because actually, when you walk back there, as I did with a contractor shortly after he did this, you can see that if we get a really serious rain event, it's going to flood his house too. It might even short out his AC unit. He's got the ground level so high that it's just mind-boggling that he thought that was a good idea. But so that's what I'm looking for, is some kind of assistance, something that we can do, and then also to prevent this from happening to other folks in the future, because this, I've found in talking on social media and to people in the neighborhood that I know, this happens quite a bit. And usually people are able to just walk over and talk to the homeowner, and they work something out. And even if it gets contentious, they arrive at some kind of an agreement. A couple people have said, well, it happened and I had to pay for all of it, but we got it fixed. I'm willing to do that, but we've got a investor-owned property. We can't reach the owner, and the renter is not cooperative, and the gentleman that actually did this hasn't been there for 6 weeks, and I've overheard that his kids don't know where he is. So really don't know who to talk to at this point to actually get something done, and I don't feel comfortable myself or hiring someone and just barging in there. and I know we can get a police escort to go and and view and take measurements and all of that, which I appreciate that commitment from the police department. But when it comes to actually going in there and digging up a large portion of someone's yard, I don't know how to proceed with that. So that's where I am. I've been there 17 years, but I've been in the neighborhood my whole life. I don't want to have to pack up and move because of this, but if it continues for too long, that's something that I have to look at. And then I have to look at what could I sell a house for that would be worth $350,000 maybe. What is it worth if it won't pass an inspection, and who's going to buy it? And what kind of neighbor is going to move in there then? I don't want to do that to Meadows Place, even if I were to leave here, and I don't want to leave here. I've been here a long time. So I appreciate anything that you folks can do, and again, prevent others from ending up in this same situation later. Even if I have to pay to get this fixed, but you're able to put something on the books that the next time when it's a retired person on a fixed income, it's somebody that's disabled or somebody that isn't working full-time, as I am blessed to be, that they have some help to resolve it. So, thank you.
Thank you, David.
I know all of you are going to be shocked, but I've got an opinion on this subject. This happens to fall within my department at the county. And so I'll say that the cheapest and easiest thing for the city itself is to say this is a civil matter, we're not involved. That worked for Fort Bend County up until 2014. Prior to that time, the county did not do any regulation outside the floodplain. You didn't even require a permit to go build structures. Because of situations like this and what we called a do no harm type attitude, Fort Bend County passed regulations in 2014 that were called regulations of floodplains, but actually applied across the entire county. On October 8th, we'll be adopting an update to those regulations that is now called Regulations for Flood Hazard Mitigation. And as I said, it applies throughout the county that is under our jurisdiction, obviously not the cities, unless the county has an interlocal with that city to act as their floodplain administrator. It is all written around this water code, and the county has been able to do things, even though we don't review building designs. We had a building go up on a property that did not have a building line, so it was built up against the property line. And while it itself was 2 feet within the property, the eave went directly to the property line and was shedding water across the fence into the neighbor's property. Through this regulations, we were able to require that they go add gutters, downspouts, and pull the water away from the neighboring property. So obviously I'm open to adopting ordinances similar to what the county has, just so that we can, like I said, do no harm to your neighbor. I don't know that we want to get into permitting every little structure or brick pavers that people add, but as long as they don't, if they do impact their neighbor, we have something to go back and work with that homeowner to remedy the situation.
So if we had an interlocal with the county, would that open the door to the county coming in and enforcing something similar here? And is it free for us to do that interlocal?
So the county is really, I don't know, we'd have to talk with our commissioner, I would say. It's mostly to do the floodplain management piece of it. The county does not do plan or plat review for any of those cities. It's just the permitting for the floodplain. I think it'd probably be better, especially if we don't, and the other thing is the county would require adopting the exact same ordinance. And in order to address these type of situations, we might want to go a little bit further than what the county ordinance is. But it would be something we could look at.
I guess with legal, what can you say at this point as far as recommendations to help residents with this situation?
Yeah, I know when we were called about this issue, we looked long and hard at all of the ordinances that were on the books and the building codes and tried to find an avenue to assist. And unfortunately, we're limited by the tools that are available to the city right now, and that's why we're discussing this today. Cities ordinarily handle these issues through fill and grade permits. And again, sometimes floodplain management. I know the city doesn't have any floodplain, but perhaps something similar to what the county has in place might be available to the city as well. But there are a number of actions at law available in the civil district court process as well, in consultation with an attorney. Could certainly provide a quicker avenue for assistance given the current situation, because we won't be able to retroactively apply whatever the city council determines it wants to do once we have something new on the books, if that's how the council decides to proceed.
I'd be in favor of adding something to the books that would help in this situation if council would want to explore that option as well. Okay, so do we want to authorize legal to look into that and see what we can do?
What I would say is let me send out the draft county regulations to both the council and the attorneys, and then we could see what we want to tweak, add, comment from there, rather than recreate the world.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah, and I think if we put it under the, as I think your word to describe it as do no harm, I think that's really the intent of this versus trying to come up with a new permitting and having somebody do engineering on trying to add a sidewalk or whatever in their backyard. I think if we can phrase it so that it comes to that intent, I think that would give a guide to both the lawyers and what we're looking for.
Yeah, because we'll definitely need to tweak things, because like with the new regulations, we're going to exempt pools from permits because the county really doesn't want to look at your pool permit or design of your pool. The city may want to keep that option. And also the square footage has gone from 100 to 400 square feet because the county was tired of looking at 10 by 12 sheds in people's backyards. Sheds. In the event that we caught it, we knew dozens or hundreds were going in every year without permits, but it wasn't anything that the county was concerned with. We're looking more at, like I said, the do no harm.
Well, and if I may, some color I'd like to add is that if City Council wants to do something more quickly, it's going to be through the building code process and the building permitting process. Again, that's how cities typically regulate those things, because that allows your building code officials, your code enforcement officers to immediately go out. If there's unpermitted construction, they've removed a bunch of dirt from a lot and excavated without a permit, and we'd have to determine thresholds for that, of course, or they've added a bunch of fill to a lot. It allows your code enforcement officers to issue red tags or stop work orders and issue citations. And every day that a violation continues can be an additional citation. And so that can be a much quicker process to getting a resolution for property owners, sometimes than a long drawn out, because I'm willing to bet the county spent months and months drafting this stuff.
Well, and it's not even just the drafting, because of the way the county works, engineering can't issue a stop work. We tell them they're in violation. And then by the time we issue our third notice of violation and give it to the county attorney's office, and they actually get it to court, we're usually 6 to 9 months down the road. So we're probably better off looking at the building codes.
City attorney mentioned threshold, and I think that's an important component of anything that you may adopt. ultimately staff is going to be tasked with enforcing with whatever's on the books, and so we would want to know how much dirt is too much dirt, for example. Those are the kinds of things we need to look at and think about, because when code enforcement goes out with her eagle eyes and sees somebody dropping 5 yards of dirt in the driveway, is that okay, right? So these kinds of things are the things that we as a staff are going to encounter out in the field, and so we want some direction and parameters on that as well.
And I don't think it's about the amount of soil. I think it's about the elevation of the soil, but when it's finished. I can tell you that when I first moved in, we had 3 dump trucks of sand, 1 of topsoil, and 1 of pea gravel brought in. And I'm still not to grade. I've still got a French drain system.
Was there another resident that wanted to speak on this? Okay.
Voice not very well after COVID.
No problem.
My mom had the same problem.
Can you
Monica,
state your name and address,
Monica Santillan. I live on. My mother lives there, 11827 Nagumero. She had the same problem many months ago, but the problem with the neighbor is she allowed her to go check, move her plants and everything, so the water stopped going to her house. We already changed the sheetrock twice. My mother is a senior with healthy problems, and I can go fight with the neighbor because I say fight because sometimes they understand or they try to, but then they lock the door and my mom's house gets flooded. And she's tired, she's stressed out. Now the problem is the old owner sold the house. It's a new owner now. Unfortunately, we love plants, but he loved plants too much. And he put everything on side of my mother's house. And he flooded again. And we talked to him, we explained the problem, and he said, well, I will leave the door open so you can move whatever when it's raining. My mother is 70 years old. She cannot move pots big like this. She cannot bend to move anything. I have healthy issues too. And we cannot be changing the sheetrock every damn year, sorry, but it's what's going on. And I don't know, we're expecting something from you guys, because since there's too many codes for the neighborhood, why not to send a I don't know, warning or cooperate with your neighbor or stop putting so many plants or don't label your yard, your backyard, almost on the top of the foundation, because that's ridiculous. It's common sense. You damage someone else's property. And they go, they no home, they're happy when it's rain, even minimal rains, it gets bad. We even put some kind of concrete, but it helped temporarily, that's all. And the thing is, I guess since she's living there almost 30 years, she don't have to deal with this when she's 70 years old, when she's supposed to enjoy her house with her plants, and she had to deal with the neighbor things. Like I say, we all love plants, but respect is my mom's property, it's her structure, it's her house. And I don't know, I guess as a community, since Meadow Place help the neighborhood a lot, I guess it's fair to help the seniors too. And that's my concern, and I'm frustrated. And I guess this is not, I know how you guys to go to follow time to approve this, to approve that, but I guess we know she don't have that time because the weather is not helping right now. It's gonna keep raining. We just crossing finger that it's not gonna happen again and again to change the sheetrock again for the third time. We already changed it this year, but I'm expecting the worst time. It goes like this. The water damage some furniture. We cannot do nothing because it's nature, right? But the thing is, the other neighbor cooperate. We fix things like we thought. This neighbor is not helping at all. And like I say, It's not fair for my mother, as a senior from this neighborhood, to deal with that and don't have support from the city. And I guess, as a David, so many neighbors say the same thing. So I guess it's time to don't take so long time to fix something that can damage a property a lot. And she can, more grew up faster, and she can not have that problem. And we're supposed to move from Meadows Place because of that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. Your frustrations are utterly justified, and I'm so sorry that this has been your experience.
For a long
we have
time.
your name and address for the record. I'll be reaching out.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And council is working on this.
But I think what you're seeing is just the general degradation of people, civility. I mean, David, your house is what, 50 years old, plus or minus? So 40 some. I've been on council close to 20 years now, not quite, and we haven't had these types of problems between neighbors. People have been able to work it out. Now nobody wants to work with their neighbor. Most of the people don't even know their neighbor. And, we try to combat that. We are a little bit closer knit than a lot of neighborhoods, but we're still continuing to see it come in. And unfortunately, that's how laws occur. That's how warning labels occur, because people just did not address things with common sense.
I know Sugar Land has a decent amount of patio homes like this as well. I'd be curious if they had anything on the books, if we have any contacts, just to see if, what are they doing?
Several of us have contacts.
Yeah. They're next door, so it may be worthwhile to reach out to them and just see how are y'all handling it. Because I lived in a home with a 0 lot line in Sugar Land prior to Meadows Place, and that was always a concern of mine. Thankfully, water never came in, but that neighbor, there was a language barrier, and they didn't want me in the yard. So it made it tough.
You want to speak to the experience you've seen in other cities?
Absolutely. I think Nick mentioned earlier that, we want to look at what types of things we want to consider and sort of what thresholds we want to look at. And some things that other cities consider are things like whether the excavation or the fill dirt puts pressure or impacts any adjacent property. City of Houston, I know, sets their fill permit at 50 cubic yards. We also look at the height. We're talking about the depth. And so if you're talking about 3 feet or more is where a permit is required. Looking at the slope of the fill as well. That can have a huge impact because it tells you where the water is going to go, right? Looking at whether there was already a natural drainage course and whether the new fill impacts that or obstructs it. All of those things are looked at. Other cities also set additional thresholds for when an engineer has to sign off on that fill or that excavation. If you're going to a depth that's unsupported, that's more than 5 feet, without any support, you need to be looking at that. And so, all of these things, and I think, around 1,000 cubic yards is what people look at as the volume threshold requiring engineering. So yeah, there are a lot of different things to look at and a lot of different things to consider. And, we can certainly look at adjacent cities to see what's working well for them and whether those thresholds are working well for them.
Is there any additional comments or discussion on this agenda item?
So I think we have an alderman that is going to share a possible, or at least a template that we can all look at. Send it to council, send it to the city attorney. Ultimately, what we do is massage it and tailor it for our use. see what's best for Meadows Place.
If that's the direction we go, I think council wanted to look at doing it through the building codes as well.
Right, and so the building codes, certainly that's what I've had all my experience in is addressing this through the building code. And so if somebody does work without a permit, certainly we stop that work anyway. But if that work passes a threshold where you need to go ahead and submit a drainage plan with that as well, in many cases an engineered drainage plan, then we would need to make sure that that comes with it. However, I will caution that it's always difficult to create a one-size-fits-all ordinance. So there will be situations where somebody chooses to build a garden that's right there in the drainage way of a type A drainage, and it dams up where water usually naturally flowed. They didn't need a permit for the garden, but the garden is now causing issues. So that's an example of things that you see over time where you do have to, and ultimately, you're right. Typically, it's a conversation with your neighbor. Hey, man, you see what this is doing. The question that council has to wrestle with is what role should the city play when that garden is messing up the neighbor's, the drainage, and messing up the neighbor's lot?
We may be able to address that just through some general exhibits that kind of show that the area between houses leading into the backyards is prohibited from rising above the foundation level and or blocking drainage from the backyards.
Over time, decorative landscape features, trees, there's a lot of stuff that can block.
We've even seen people, when they had their driveways redone, didn't think about grade, raise their driveway, and now the water in the backyard can't get out. And they're calling the county to say, somebody changed something. Yes, you.
All it takes is one bag of mulch to cover a drainage area, and boom, you can flood your neighbor's house. So it's delicate. So it's hard to put a threshold. I know, Nick, you were asking for a threshold.
I think it's more, let's define the area between the houses as basically drainage easements.
And especially on the
drainage.
R2 area of the city.
Yeah. But I mean, even with my house, if my neighbor, if he were to repave his driveway and raise it 4 inches, it would now be above my foundation. So, stuff like that.
Yeah. I know for new construction, we had to, they told us what we had to do. We had to make the swale that was supposed to be there when all the houses were built, but they've all filled in after 50 years.
So to David's point, one of the other things, and I don't know if this is short-term or long-term rental, but if we have any control on rental property, this would be a place to exercise it. I don't know if we can do that or not, but that would be that'd be a question to.
Might be a legal question if we can treat rental properties.
Now, what restrictions we have when it's a non-owner occupant, and whether or not with a lease. I think we require a short-term permit now, right, for a short-term lease, and it's annually has to be renewed, and that
correct.
Renewal,
it's like a license, basically. Correct.
So I don't know if there's something we can do to mitigate possibly rental homes, so that if the owner isn't cooperating, the tenant isn't cooperating, then we go back to the owner. And we've had several issues already with fences and pools and other areas with investment properties and meadows now not being cared for properly. So maybe it's something we can do with the.
Well, I think we still have our rental registry, don't we?
Yes, and we do have the occupancy inspections whenever it changes
Turns over.
hands.
Right, but what I'm saying is we should have contact information for this owner. David has indicated he can't reach the owner, correct?
I mean, we've sent.
I believe they live out of
now.
country.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I mean, we've.
They have a sugar address. One time they were, the house changed about 5 years ago. And that address next door to me.
So yeah, I should have mentioned this earlier. So when we sent a code enforcement letter to the neighboring property owner, in that letter it basically said, we are aware that you are sheet flowing onto your neighbor's property. Please fix it. Now we know that the city doesn't have any teeth to enforce that, but we still wanted them to know that we knew. I didn't think it would harm to let them know that. But it obviously has been radio silence since we sent that letter.
But we can reach out and request a courtesy meeting.
Yes. And David and I have already discussed that. We wanted to wait to see how tonight progressed. Like I said before, your frustrations are justified. I think this is degradation of the neighbor. And do no harm is a really good phrase here. So please know that I will be in touch. I'll be in touch with you. I'll be in touch with involved parties. And council and our city attorney will be working closely together on this issue. And I really appreciate you bringing it forward because I suspect you're not the only ones dealing with this issue. So thank you, council. Kelly, did you want to say something?
Yeah, what will be the turnaround on all this stuff? Because I just glanced at the weather for like the next week, and we're looking at 6 days of rain, which I'm sure David is looking forward to right now, and your mother too. I totally understand about not being able to move objects. Yeah, and, you know, the stress at that level and all, you know, it plays games with you mentally and everything. And I'm just wondering how long will it take to get someone back there to fix the backyard, maybe temporarily or whatever, so David doesn't have to worry about, or have somebody come move it. I've got friends I can call, and they'll be glad to move all those plants and everything. You know, we have the Meadows Place Army that'll come and move plants and everything. We just need to do something now. It's good to look to the future, but the next week is not going to be a happy time.
Nothing in government is fast.
So as attorney for the city, I would not recommend trespassing on property without permission to access the property. So.
All right. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us tonight. I really appreciate it. Is everybody ready to move on to consent agenda? We have a motion from Rick and a second from Kelly to consider the approval of the minutes. Do I need to read the whole list? Oh, no. Okay. All right. It's time for audience comments for matters not... Oh, wait. Vote. Oh, we got to vote. Sorry, guys. We got to vote. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Now it's time to move on to audience comments for matters not on the agenda. Would anybody like to come forward? Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Melba Henderson. My address is 12211 Meadowcrest Drive. Mm-hmm. And I've been in the community 30 years or more almost. And my concern is the infestation of the cats. And I do appreciate the fact that you're updating the animal control. Mm-hmm. But I didn't hear anything mentioned about the cats. And they're being fed in front of other people's homes. And the infestation is just getting out of control. Mm-hmm. I did speak with Angie, or whoever the
code enforcement, yes,
code
Angie.
enforcer was last year, and she supposedly spoke with the resident that is feeding the cats, and just as a warning. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, I don't think anything else was done. I've also contacted the SPCA, mm-hmm. and they have also been out, and they were told that that person only owned one cat, but that's not the truth.
Okay.
So me and my neighbors are being inundated with cats that are not ours, mm-hmm. and they're multiplying.
Yes. You are not wrong.
I was going to say, can we introduce you to our former mayor? This was a specific issue with him, and unfortunately, there's very little the city can do because they just say that they're not theirs, and it's hard to prove that they are. And so they're defined as feral, And then if we call animal control, they will come spay and neuter them and then return them to us. They won't keep them.
Yes, they have addressed that with me. However, I am concerned about them being fed. There is a drainage in front of my house where they sometimes reside. And I don't think it's fair to the residents that people are allowed to bring food to them at that particular location.
They're putting food in front of your house?
They're bringing food in my house or wherever they want to feed their cats.
Okay.
So that is a concern to me.
As I told the former mayor, if we can catch them feeding them, that to me defines ownership.
Also, just so you're aware, we changed our code enforcement officer earlier this year. So if you talk to Jennifer probably any time prior to March, she left, I think, the first part of March, and we've had a new code enforcement officer started about 2 months ago, but really a month ago she got in the field. So that may be something to have her come back out and talk with you.
Okay.
The tricky part about this issue, and I've met with the director of the Fort Bend County Animal Control Unit, and the tricky part about this is that the cats are difficult to manage because they do have babies so quickly. And you are not the only street. We have a Scottsdale situation. We've got several gangs of cats hanging around the neighborhood. The cats, though, can be addressed with the trap, neuter, and release program. Rick is not wrong. And actually, I watched a friend of mine go through this process with cats, neuter, and release. She also has a lady next to her that feeds the cats daily. And it was more complicated than I imagined it to be. You can trap them and you can get them to Fort Bend County Animal Control, which is in Rosenberg, so it's a 30-minute drive, and then they can only go for certain days, and then you have to pick them up the next day. It is not an easy process. I do know we have several residents who have traps and are willing to help with this problem. Fort Bend County Animal Control will give you a trap. I think there's a deposit, but it's free. So you put money down, you can get the trap, and then release the cat once it's spayed or neutered, and then you get your deposit back.
Yes, I was told that today. I have no intentions of doing that because I'm not a pet person, so I've never used a trap, don't intend to use one.
Right.
But I do would like to share this quick story. A neighbor did put a trap down. Instead of it catching a cat, it caught the
Possum?
a possum.
Yes.
And the person that loved cats released the possum. My neighbor has that on camera.
Okay.
Has on camera several things that, and we want to stay neighborly. So we're not trying to upset somebody who, want to rescue and feed cats, but we just prefer that they not be done at our homes.
Right. No, I think that's really fair. One of the things that when I was speaking with Mr. Vasquez at the head of the director of Fort Bend County Animal Control, the trap, neuter, release program seems to be pretty effective. Once they're trapped and neutered and released, feral cats don't have a very, very long lifespan. It's not like your house cat that lives for 18 to 20 years. Feral cats live 8 to 10 years max. And so when the cats in the area are all spayed and neutered, then you have this time frame where they're no longer living. This is probably not what you wanted to hear, and I'm really, really sorry about that.
No, I've heard it all. I heard it all before, but I was just wondering if while I'm here, can I address another issue?
Yes, please.
The sound, I back up to West Airport, and I was told by the former mayor that we cannot regulate the times that trucks come through. And I'm just curious if that's changed, Denny.
I doubt it.
It's a public street, so it's very little that we can do to regulate traffic unless the specific vehicle violates a noise ordinance with loud stereo or things like that. There's really not anything you can do.
Will there be any update to the walls that are there in place now?
There's no plans for that.
No plans, I didn't think
I
so.
mean, we've got neighborhoods that are built up against the railroad tracks. We've got neighborhoods that are built up to sand pits where the sand trucks start hauling at 3 a.m. County doesn't have any noise ordinances, so at least the city has that.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Melba, thank you for coming. Would anybody else like to come to the podium? All right. With no further business to discuss, this meeting stands adjourned.